All right, we are live. Welcome, everybody, to another Friday night interview. With me, I have a woman named Delima. How are you doing this evening?
Very good. Thank you for taking me on your show. It's very exciting to be here.
No, it's I
And
actually. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm really glad I have this opportunity to also share my experience. I've been following your interviews and I find them really I find them really interesting and also kind of gives me a strength to keep going because it really makes me feel I'm not alone, although you read about many cases. But when you hear the voices, it's you feel more close to somebody and you feel like, yes, there is really more people out there like me. I'm not alone.
Exactly. I mean, that's one of the primary reasons why I wanted to do it because I feel like when I saw some videos of people talking about their stories and stuff, whether they were in high school or whether they were a few who were adults. I'm thinking to myself, oh man, I remember when I was in high school, or I remember when I was in school and having to deal with that. And when they have to talk about similar situations, it does give you a somewhat of a comforting feel that okay, yeah, this is not only just happening to me, but at the same time, it also verifies that it's not all in your head. I don't know if you have any experiences where family members or friends say, "Oh, I can't smell
Oh, yes.
anything," and stuff like that.
Yes. Plenty of that. Many times I have to struggle to keep my sanity because throughout the years in my life, I consulted different doctors not related to each other uh, at different times. Different. I was not born in the United States. I was born in South America. And even when I was living in South America, I was finding the same situations. Doctors were telling me, no, you don't smell. Maybe just try this or that. And they were just dismissing me. And
Hmm.
when I came here and I tried the same, I said, okay, let me try here. This is a country with more resources, that is more developed. Maybe I can find better answers. Same story. Doctors pretty much, some doctors even told me that I had to go to a psychiatrist or prescribe me anxiety pills, which some of them even made the situation even worse. I felt that they made me smell
Anxiety
more.
pills made it worse.
Yes, my problem is bad breath. My
Hmm.
problem, I think there's some of body odor. Sometimes I feel like a wimp because I cannot smell myself. I cannot smell my breath either. So I just have to go by how people react. And we all know that reactions sometimes it's not a reliable source for us to know how bad we are because sometimes part of that is our paranoia too. So we don't know how much can be my own paranoia and how much it can be a real reaction to me.
Yeah, and I haven't really asked you like the typical questions I ask everybody, like your age, your location, and how did it
Mhm.
all start. So let me start from the beginning, or just ask the typical questions. What is your age?
I'm 44 years old.
All right, and where are you located?
I'm located in New Jersey.
And can you tell me your first experience that you had with this condition, or people making mention of you having bad breath or something like that?
The first time I realized of that was when I started college. I finished high school. High school was difficult for me. I didn't have too many friends. And there was some sort of bullying too, but not at the point of the bullying you hear that happens nowadays here in the United States. It wasn't as bad as that, but I was pretty much lonely and isolated with just a few friends.
Did
So
you?
when I
But you
went,
didn't have. It wasn't. You weren't isolated because of your bad breath, correct?
I didn't know back in that time, and I
Mhm.
don't know if part of it makes sense. Part of it could be the bad breath. I don't know. Nobody ever told me that, or at least I didn't notice that. Nobody mentioned anything. So I wasn't very popular and I just had a few friends and that was it. So I said, now that I have the opportunity to start all over again, I'm gonna go to college. I don't have behind me any reputation. People don't know me. I'm gonna be more open, more friendly. It's gonna be a new beginning, a new start. So yes, it was nice. I started having friends in college, and I was very hopeful about it, that socially my life was gonna change. And I remember we used to have a classmate that had armpit body odor. It was very strong. Not at the point to fill out a room, but when you were near to him, you could
You
feel it.
smell it.
Yes. So we used to talk about it. And my other friends at college, we used to say, we don't know what's happening with this guy, the usual thing. We don't understand how come a person can smell with so many products out there in the market. It must be that he's not really good with his cleaning. Who knows what's happening? Then the jokes were happening around and all that stuff. And one day, one of my classmates, I was with two more classmates, we were walking to class and we were talking about his issue. And she said, well, it's like, let's assume you have bad breath. We were expecting you to, hey, do something, gargle with some Listerine or something, to take that out of your throat, whatever it is. And they
Right.
started laughing. So when she said that, I was like, maybe she was trying
Hinting.
to hint me on something. So I said, I'm going to be a little bit more careful, because I remembered when I was a child, I'm the youngest of my family. My two older sisters, sometimes they used to tell me that my breath smelled like a sewer. But I
Mm,
was a child. I thought it was, I haven't brushed my teeth. I just have to go and brush my teeth and that's it. You know how kids are. They rather be playing around than taking care of their hygiene all the time.
right.
So I said, well, I guess sometimes I tend to have bad breath. I'll be a little bit more careful just in case that was a comment towards me. And I started being more careful. I started carrying on my pocketbook a toothbrush, toothpaste, and things like that. But then the comments started coming more and more. And one day during a class, because I went to college and I started like 2 semesters of languages. That's how I started learning English.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to have a class. It was dedicated only to pronunciation and it was called linguistic. And there you were studying certain symbols that help you to know in any language how to pronounce a word. And they were teaching us what was the sound of all those symbols. And then the teacher came into a symbol that was pronounced kind of like a K. And then the same friend that made that comment before about the bad breath, she said, hey, this is good for you. This is a good sound for you since you have bad breath. And when she said that, I was really surprised and baffled. So I turned around and I said to her, what did you say? And then the other classmates that were around me, they look at her like she let the cat out of the bag. And
Mm-hmm.
they look at her like, what the
Why
hell
would
did
you
you
say
say?
that?
Yes, they look at her like, and but they all pretended that nothing happened. And she didn't say anything. She stayed quiet. And I said, and I look at her and she didn't say anything. So I turn around and continue on the class. But I couldn't get that out of my mind on that moment. I felt extremely, extremely embarrassed. I wanted the earth to open and swallow me.
What age were you when you were in college?
I was 17.
You were 17. And I know you
Mhm.
said you were from another country.
Yes,
Um, so where was your primary country or your native country?
it's Colombia.
Colombia. And
Yeah.
so, so all this was happening in Colombia.
Yes.
Um, and after that, you said you already took like, measures to try to freshen your breath by brushing your teeth and stuff like that.
And then I started noticing it didn't do anything. And and I was feeling like really embarrassed. So what I did, because I noticed nothing was helping me out, and I was having comments. Back in that time, I didn't see any reactions from people like stepping backwards or covering their noses, nothing like that. But I was having comments. One day we were in the cafeteria all together talking, and another classmate said, "You know, I used to have a friend in high school that had such a horrible bad breath. You guys don't imagine how horrible it was." And then when he was telling that story, I was feeling like, oh my God, that's for me. That's for me. Oh my God. I wanted to just run away. But of course, I didn't have any excuse to do it. And then another friend underneath the table was kicking him for him to stop. But he wasn't stopping. And she was like kicking him and kicking him. But I was noticing the whole thing. And he was like, oh my God. And he smelled so awful in his mouth. And he was like, and making these gestures. I was
Hmm.
thinking of all, I don't know what's happening with that guy. His insides were all stinky, and he was making that comment. And I just had to sit there and pretend I wasn't catching.
That would be very frustrating and insulting. Because one thing, you don't want to leave to make a scene, but at the same time, you don't want to be around there because you already get the hint that they're talking about you. Um,
Yes. So I didn't really know what to do. The only thing I was feeling was this extreme embarrassment. So what I did is I started socializing less. I was like, every time a class was finishing, I was running home. And sure, my classmates started noticing. And then one day they asked me and they said, "What's happening with you? We noticed lately that you're not sharing anymore with us and sitting with us. A class is done and then you run like somebody is following you. What's up?" And I said, "No, no, I just have things to do. That's all." But because I didn't want it to keep, you know, being around those kind of comments, and I didn't know how to handle the situation.
I'm curious, what year was this when you went to college? Was this in the
It
90s, 80s?
was on the 90s, late 90s.
It was in the late 90s. Yeah, because another thing for me is this was happening to me when I was a teenager, and naturally I just went to the internet, and it started getting pretty bad, like in like 2007 or something like that. So I had the internet available at the time, but in the late 90s, I mean, I guess the
No,
internet existed, but I don't think there was too much information you could
no,
go to. So, like, what did you try to? I guess the only thing you could do is just brush your teeth more, and like,
yeah. So that's what I did. I brushed my teeth more, and then I started. I went. I mean, in Colombia back in that time, having insurance if you were not working, it was difficult. So I didn't have insurance either, but I was young enough. I wasn't sick of anything. But as part of the student plan that we had access to have doctors. So I went and took a doctor's appointment at the college that was available to us for free. And I went to this doctor. I was brave enough to go there because I couldn't talk about that. I couldn't even pronounce the word bad breath. It was paralyzing for me. Still it is.
hmm,
So I went to this doctor and I said, I'm having these comments that I have bad breath and I don't know what's happening to me. So he said, okay, open your mouth, let me smell it. And he said, I don't smell anything. And I was like, okay. I was like, maybe he didn't smell me because when he put his mouth, he put his nose on my mouth. He made me open my mouth, but I
hmm.
didn't breathe when he did that. I was in such panic and in such embarrassment that when he did that, I didn't breathe. I
Were
held
you
my
having panic
I held my
attacks when
breath.
you were in college, when you had to go to like classes and stuff like that? Did you have possibly suffered from panic attacks, or did you just get extreme anxiety even before even going into classes?
No, I wasn't having that. I mean, before the comments, I was pretty happy on college.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was making friends, everything looked different for me, everything was fun. I really liked it when I got there. But when the comments started, and I knew it was for me. It changed my whole life. It was, I felt like it robbed my opportunity to finally have a good social life.
What you're saying is so, I don't know. I could relate to a lot of things you're saying because within college, I also was, I was pretty much a loner. I mean, in high school, I was pretty much a loner too. And in college, I felt like this was a new leaf to go and start talking and be more social and stuff like that. So I thought this was going to be a better opportunity, even though, I already got comments about me smelling bad or whatever in high school. I felt like, that's in the past. This is my future
Mm-hmm.
now, but it was still bad. Actually, it was worse in college. And when you were talking about the doctor situation, um, I had the same experience. Well, I don't really have bad breath. That's not the thing that's hurting me, but it's more so body odor. And people say, you smell like shit. So when I have to go to a doctor, when I have to go to like the physician in the university and tell him that, uh, it was very embarrassing to say. I wouldn't say I was panicky, but you don't want to talk about that. You don't want to say that because it's something I'm
Yes,
really embarrassed to talk about.
I know.
But I do see a question in the chat, and Speedy Chicken asks you, can you ask her what she thinks she could have possibly caused it?
I really don't know. Sometimes I go back to my life and I think I had it even when I was a child, but progressively has gotten worse. I I do believe from all the things that I have read and the other people that have talked that it has to be something on my stomach or related to your biome. Um, every time I have visited doctors, they always coincide in something, which is I have acid reflux. So that has to be connected with it. I have such a bad acid reflux that it gives me throat infection because it fills up so much my throat that I ended up getting infections or awful coughs. And then they have to control that.
When have you first been what age were you when they first diagnosed that you had acid reflux?
When I was in Colombia around my 20s, because that's another thing, I've always suffered from upper respiratory infections, throat infections specifically. And I suffered since I was a child from tonsillitis too, but they never took them off. They always treated them. I got so much antibiotics my whole life for those throat infections. Uh, antibiotics like shots, because in Colombia, doctors used to give you a lot of shots. It's cheaper and it works better to give you shots than to just give you pills. So I had a lot of antibiotics my whole life. So I think part of that could be antibiotics, part of that could be the acid reflux and stress. Of course, stress make you worse. Stress make worse also your acid reflux. So I think it's a conjunction of all of this, but it's something with my stomach or my digestive system. That's my theory.
I was gonna say that I know a number of people say a couple of things about antibiotics. I hear stories where people say, with once I took a large amount of antibiotics for some type of infection, that's when this odor started to happen. Um, but another thing I've heard is some people say that some antibiotics actually reduce their odor. I actually was talking to this one woman a couple of weeks ago who said she tested for H. pylori, and the
Mm-hmm.
doctor gave her some type of antibiotics to remove it. And she told me that she's not having as much, the odor is not as intense as it used to be. But I know, everybody's different. And I think obviously
Yes.
every antibiotics is different. I wanted to
I
ask you,
don't know really if antibiotics make me better or worse. Um, I and the other thing is I've suffered from a lot of constipation too. And recently I've been going to a functional doctor and they found I had SIBO. So I've been in treatment since last year for SIBO as well.
there's several things I want to say. It's funny that I see, well, it's funny I see the gut war. Salute to the gut war. Have you ever seen his channel? The gut war?
Yes, I with Joshua.
Yes, because
Yes,
because a lot of these things sound like digestive issues, and I was wanted to ask you, have you ever possibly uh, eaten fermented foods or vegetables or any type of probiotics, and did you see any success, or it was still the same or possibly worse?
I have tried throughout my life so many probiotics that you cannot imagine, from cheap to expensive, refrigerated, not refrigerated, so many types of probiotics, and I never see any difference. I have spent so much money on those, and I've never seen any difference. When I started this treatment with this doctor, this functional doctor, and she started digging to see what could be, uh, she didn't really pay attention when I said, yeah, I have bad breath, the same thing that happens with all the doctors. She said, I'm sorry, but I don't smell you. I cannot smell anything. And I'm like, I do understand, but when I go out to the world, these are the things that are happening to me. I have plenty of examples. And she said, well, in the meantime, let's see how you are. She took a lot of tests. I was low in certain vitamins. She leveled those out. And then she put me on this
What
diet.
vitamins were you low in?
I was low in vitamin D3, very, very low. I was in vitamin 3. She prescribed me with zinc. I have tons of vitamins and things, specialty vitamins that cost me a lot of money that I've been taking since last year. As part of this treatment, she gave me a very specific diet for SIBO, which is really tough. And before I started seeing her, I was doing the TMAU diet. And before the
Mm.
TMAU diet, I was trying the Candida diet because I was like, maybe that's what it is. I didn't see any difference when I was doing those diets. I still was seeing people having reactions to me. The only thing that I saw is that I was losing weight. And on top of that, when I started the SIBO diet, I lost more weight.
Mm. I wanted to ask you so many things because you said so many things. I wanted to sort of go back a little bit too. Um, I know when you were talking about probiotics, you were talking about supplements, but what about like natural fermented foods like sauerkraut, like pickles technically?
The kefir, I've
Um,
been doing that. I've been
yep.
doing the kefir. I've been doing the kombucha.
Hmm.
I've been doing the store kombucha and kefir because I haven't really made the time to try to do those like Joshua recommends. But I've been adding those to my diet too.
And you don't feel like there's a difference?
No,
Well, difference in odor or difference in just your digestive system becoming a little bit better? Do you feel that?
no, I really haven't noticed anything. I have noticed an improvement on my constipation with certain enzymes the doctor prescribed me for before and after eating. I've noticed I was having better bowel movements without the need of laxatives. But
Hmm.
she also gave me some natural laxatives, some supplements that were laxatives that helped me out. But with laxatives, the problem is after a while, they stop working. It's like your body starts getting used to it and it doesn't work anymore. And you have to keep kind of rotating different types of laxatives to keep having the effect that you need. That's the problem with that. Whether if they are natural or if they are medications, it is the same cycle you get exposed to.
Have you ever tried psyllium husk? That's actually a natural.
Mhm.
Oh, you tried it before?
I tried that. All the laxatives available on the on the
Oh, it's not
shelf that
really.
you
It's not
can
really a
buy.
laxative. It's actually just
Fibers,
yeah.
yes. Benefiber, all those fibers. I've
Fiber
tried
doesn't work.
those.
Yeah, but
Yes, medications, you name it.
I do got a question from the chat from the gut war, and he asked you, has she tried getting a gut test to see her bacteria levels?
Yes, actually, this doctor sent me that complete test from Genova Diagnostics. One of the guys on the interviews, he talked about this. A guy from UK, I think it was Tom. He talked about this test, and he also said this test is even better from the uBiome test. It's a very
What
complete
was it? What
test.
was the test called? I remember that.
It's a GI profile something. So when I heard that, I was like, yeah, that's the one that my functional doctor gave me. It's a very complete test, and she did it. She did that and another one for SIBO. So after a year of being on this diet, she gave me all these supplements. The test showed up. My bacteria got better, but it's not at the point where it should be. And
Mm,
also the inflammation, because I was very high in inflammation, the inflammation went down completely. So,
mm.
I mean, there was good news at least. There was something that was improving. But with regards of my bad breath, I don't see any difference. At work, it's really hard because companies now they are using this new concept of open space. So there's no cubicles, it's only tables.
Hmm.
And I had such a hard time to find a place where to sit. I was like doing the logistics. Where am I gonna sit? Because I don't want to be close to too many people. So I found a kind of corner where I don't have too much people around me on a separate table, because there are options. There are tables that are shared or round tables that you share, and separate stations, which is one desk only for you. So I was able to take one of those, but it's hard for me because as soon as I get work, people start the whole thing. Um, and it takes a toll on you being the whole day, around those reactions. Or as soon as somebody comes to my desk to ask me something, as soon as I talk to them, they start like walking backwards and covering their noses. Some people start kind of hiding behind my monitor. I'm like, I have
Wow.
to of um kind of look for them, or they start walking backwards, and I'm like, the hell, I cannot talk with people like that if they are on my back. Slowly they start walking away from me and walking towards my back, I guess, so they are not as much exposed to my breath. And on meetings, as soon as I talk, people starts kind of getting away from me and covering their noses,
Yeah.
and they start offering me candies desperately. And
Candies? You mean like mints?
well, sometimes it's mints, but mostly they offer me candies or cookies as soon as I start talking. Or they start one day we were in a meeting, it was a team meeting, and it was a big meeting room because it was the whole team. And as soon as I started talking, the people next to me started passing candies immediately and giving me candies. And with this diet, I cannot eat any type of sugars, because the whole point of this diet is to starve the bacteria, and bacteria feeds from sugars and carbs. So when I started this diet, I had to start explaining to people, hey, I have SIBO, and SIBO is this, and this, and I cannot eat any type of candies and sugars, even if they are natural sugars, no artificial, no type of sugars. So please don't offer me those things. I had to start kind of advertising that to people until they finally get used to it and don't keep offering me candies, mints, cookies all the time.
Sorry to interrupt you, but there's like several different questions on the chat that I want to read and see if you can answer some of them. Um,
Mhm.
One of them is from the Gut War, and he asks, "Did you get to see your specific bacteria, Lactobacillus bifidobacterium and S. thermophilus?"
The test has so much information. I didn't really look at that. I have to kind of pull it to see, because the test, it gives the information to the users more in terms of graphics. So I have to see if the data behind the graphics, if it's there.
Like within your test results, is there a
Mhm.
way to like print it out in a PDF format?
Oh yes, I actually, Genova gives you the test, and you can download it from the portal into your phone or your computer as a PDF.
That that would be so it would have been really fascinating to try to bring that information here and show it live. To just scroll through some type of information like that, because I mean, I think it's really interesting. And I wanted to say this for a very long time when you were talking, but what you're saying sounds so familiar to a woman I interviewed. And I think she was the eighth interview. I think she was Carol, and she has like bad breath, and I think she had something to do with there was something wrong with her throat and something. I think she also had like acid reflux. Like a lot of things that you're talking about
Mhm.
just reminded me of the eighth interview I did, um, and I know she had just a lot of digestive problems. I don't know if she had all the things that you're mentioning, but it's very interesting that you're saying this. Is like, so somewhat sounds like you both have the same thing, but there's still other questions. Um,
Mhm.
so I got another question from Tammy Oyo, and she asks, "Is she in a relationship or holding down a relationship?"
I haven't had a relationship in so many years. My last relationship was probably 8 years ago.
Mhm.
And and that was kind of my last try. And all my relationships that I have had, they haven't been too many, but the ones that I have had pretty much at some point they vanish. They stop calling me, they stop coming over. I don't know what's happening, and they just vanish on me. I don't know what's happening. So sometimes I'm wondering if because it's bad bread, or when they realize the bad bread it's constant, maybe they just leave. I don't know what it is, to be honest. And that was my last attempt. But I remember when I used to have that relationship, that boyfriend, every time I was getting into his car, he used to open the windows a little bit, whether if it was summer or winter. He used to open the windows a crack, and it was my window side.
Mhm. Oh, only
As
your
soon as,
window side.
yes, as soon as I was getting into his car, he was like going and getting my window a crack a little bit down. Every time I was getting into the car, he
Would
was
you ever
doing that.
confront him about it?
No, because back in that time I was in denial. I because I didn't know what to do. I rather not to think about it, and not to think that I was having a bad breath problem. Up until recently, I started um, going into an acceptance process, because I started going into therapy with I don't know if you guys know from Mivo, Krisan. She she started offering, consultation for people, for like counseling services.
Yeah, I interviewed her. I can't remember which one it was, but I interviewed her at a specific time. I think she was in the teens. Um, but yeah, I've heard of Chris on. Yeah, and I talked to her about it. I mean, I
Yeah.
talked to her and she told me her story. Uh,
Mhm.
This. Let me just finish reading some of the things. Another question, is that a question? Well, he says your lungs also have a microbiome of bacteria. The lungs also have a FMO3 processing capabilities. Bacteria help organ function. The doctors also get mixed up with all the numbers, but those are the important ones, in my opinion. Now he asks you, how's her diet look now? What do you eat in a typical day from start to end?
Mostly I do the diet they gave me, which was a combination between paleo and low food map. So it's very limited, but it's not that I am hungry. I really, the range of foods that they gave me it's limited, but I was already limited on my food anyway, because I was doing candida, I was doing TMAU, so I was kind of used to it and found recipes to do that. So at at the morning, I do a shake with vegetables and the fruits that I can eat, and drop either vitamins or collagen powders or protein powders, something like that. Um, and sometimes I do like egg whites. Recently, because you get bored of the same food, so recently I've been adding egg whites to my morning routine. And at lunch, I usually prepare a vegetable stew with the vegetables I can eat, um, and either ground beef or chicken, and mix it with that. And I always prepare a chicken broth and a meat broth with potatoes and carrots. No, any artificial spices. I like Knorr or Maggie,
MSG or stuff like that.
chicken bouillon,
Flavor
things like that.
enhancers.
I don't add any of that. Just pepper, salt, and herbs. That's what I do on all my food.
So, so you tried so many diets, from the SIBO diet, the Candida diet, to the TMAU diet, and you say none of them have. You haven't noticed a change in any one of them. Would you say that there was one that was slightly better, or do you feel all of them just didn't really? Uh,
No, I didn't notice any difference because my test is when I go to work, and I was seeing people walking backwards every time I was talking to them, covering their noses, hiding,
in the doctor's
underneath
office,
something. Yes.
but at the same time, they'll say they never smell anything.
I've never confronted anybody at the office. That's not something I'm ready to do.
Well, I would say, well, if within the doctor's office, I would assume, like, they're trying to help you. This is a place where it's trying
Yeah.
to help you, as opposed to,
Yeah.
in your work or something like that. But if you would see people do that, like if I saw somebody like hold their nose or something like that when I'm like actually at the doctor's office and I'm complaining about to the doctor, hey, people say I smell like shit, and I see like her assistant or nurse like do this or do something that shows that she's repelling against me, I would just point her out, say, see, she's like, she's making a reaction. But I guess you don't do that.
No, because this doctor doesn't have too many patients. She actually only works 2 times a week, and she only takes 2 patients a day because she spends long hours with you. That's what functional doctors do. So when I get into her office, there's not too many people. At most one, if there's anybody there. Mostly there's nobody there. I'm the only one filling out the forms, and that's it. And when I get into the office or talk with the secretary, I don't see any reactions from her or from the dietitian that works with the doctor. She doesn't. She also said that she couldn't smell anything. So those are the things that make you nuts, because you're like, okay, I go to the doctor. The doctor doesn't show any reactions. They tell you that you don't smell, but when you go out, you have to look at all these things, and it's been towards my whole life. I remember when I was in college, one day we were doing a you know a task that we had to do. We had to create a video, so we took all the shots, and then we went to a place where they were able to edit the video for us, and we were telling them which scenes we wanted on that video. And I don't remember what the heck the guy that was helping us with the editing said, but we all laughed, and I was laughing. And then there was a classmate next to me, and she said, oh my god, I had a sweater on my hands, and she said, oh my god, cover your mouth with the sweater. She said that. She said that to me. She was like kind of annoyed. And she said, oh my god, cover your mouth. And on that moment, it ruined the whole thing for me. I just wanted to run out, just wanted to run away. I felt so bad. And in South America, people is like more open to talk about things and also to laugh about things. It's part of the culture here. It's like people is it's more like they want to be politically correct. They want to be more careful, although there's bullying and all those kind of things. But believe me, socially, people is not that much direct as um, South Americans are.
I want to ask you, just read some questions from the chat. Uh, a question from M. Humes. I don't know if it's a he or she. He asked, how long did she try kefir and fermented foods?
I just started trying it recently. I started when I saw the thing with Joshua. I started buying the kefir, trying to get it the organic ones, getting organic kombucha too, and drinking it. Even at work, they ask me what it is when they see the bottles of kombucha on my desk, because they sometimes
You
they
have
look
bottles
like
of
beer.
kombucha on your desk?
Yeah, when they sit on my desk, they're like, "Is that beer? Are you drinking beer?" I'm like, "No, it's kombucha, guys. Do you?" And they were like, "What is that?" So I explained them, "This is something that is high in probiotics since I have digestive issues. This is that I'm using." So also people know that you are working on that. It's not that I don't care.
Right.
So that's what I've been doing. It's probably about 2 months already.
Yeah, what you said reminds me of another person I know who has like just strictly like a breath issue, and he would tell me that when he was in college, he would always just have like a I think like a pack of like mints or some type of you know things like that, and he would like
Yes,
pop them in his mouth every time when he would talk around his friends.
yes.
And he would do that to show that he acknowledges that he gives off an odor or he has bad breath, and therefore they can like naturally know that it's not him not having a hygiene issue. It must be something deeper than that.
I don't think people understand this. People don't really understand the problem with body odors. It's hard for people to get around the fact that somebody smells with so many products on the market for each type of body smell. They cannot believe it. They are like, if you smell, it's because you're not taking care of that, because it's impossible nowadays for that to happen. But guess what? It happens. It happens to many of us, and there's more and more people with the same problem, but there's not too much awareness of it. So many people really don't understand it. No matter what you do, no matter what you try to explain in your own way, no matter what they see you do. Let me tell you, at work one day, I'm the only person who, after lunch, goes to brush her teeth. And it's a full routine. I do dental floss, I scrub my tongue, I gargle, the whole 9 yards. And they see me doing that after lunch. And one day, a coworker came to me and she said, "Oh, you're so good with your oh, dental hygiene." And I said, "Yes." And you know what? I don't have any cavities. I don't have any tartar. I don't have any gum disease, none of that. And she said, "Oh, so I imagine that because you don't have any of that, then maybe you don't go to the dentist, right?" I was like, "Yes, I go to the dentist. I mean, it's part of
Hmm.
our insurance plan. I go for my cleanings every 6 months. I mean, after I explained her, so she realized that I had a good hygiene and I had no problems, because sometimes people think that you have gum disease, because gum disease produces bad breath. And they
Hmm.
try to tell you, "Have you tried going to the dentist? You know, you have to take care of yourself." So I, before she started with that, I came ahead and told her that. And even after I told her that, she
He
assumed
didn't believe
that
you.
maybe I was delirious and I wasn't going to the dentist.
You know, it's so funny. I just recently got off a job. And I'm actually working at a Aldi's. Basically, it's a grocery store, and it's a pretty stupid job. But basically, what I have to do right now is with the coronavirus, I have to like clean the handlebars off of shopping carts. And what you said was so funny to me because there was this one. I had to go through like so many different customers, but there's this one customer who was waiting in line, and once I cleaned off the handlebars, I overheard her say to her friend like, "How can you clean my cart with disinfectant but still smell like shit?" or something like that.
Oh,
And that like really made me so annoyed
no.
because at the same time, listening to what you're saying, where you're putting in so much work to prove like or try to remove any possible odor, but nonetheless, you still people still make give off reactions or make slight comments. And in the same way with me, even though mine is, I think it's only body odor. Like I try to wake up every day and just sweat out the odor and eat like a certain diet, but nonetheless, you still get comments. So it's like it's very frustrating. And I can understand why you. Uh, I don't know. Just hearing your story, I can understand why you would be frustrated. But there are some questions I want to get off that are on the in the chat. Tammy Oyo says Colombia's, I guess Colombians drink a lot of coffee. Were you a big coffee drinker in the past?
Actually, that's funny because I always tell this to people. I'm the only Colombian that doesn't drink coffee. My mother didn't rise us drinking coffee. Actually, our breakfast was either had chocolate or natural juices. So I was never really used to coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker at all. So it's funny. And thanks God I'm not a coffee drinker, because coffee makes your breath even worse.
Yeah.
So I think I'm not used to it, and I don't like it, and it doesn't like me either at this point of my life.
Okay. Have to, even though, okay, that's not really a comment. The gut war asks you, what type of vegetables are you eating and how many?
I'm eating peppers. I'm eating squash, eggplants, tomatoes. I had to stop them because my acid reflux came back.
Wow.
Um, I I do green beans. What else? Green beans, zucchini, yellow squash, carrots, potatoes. Those are the kind of vegetables I use. And actually, when I do, my vegetable stew with herbs, salt, and pepper, and plus the chicken or the ground beef, it's very filling for me. I'm not hungry during the day, thanks God.
You're
And in
still,
between, if I need a snack, one of the things that my doctor recommended me was to use coconut butter. It's nice and tasty. It has its own sweet, and it really curbs your kind of uh, a desire of eating something sweet, and it's really
Mhm.
filling.
Another question the gut war has is, how's your sleep and what are your stress levels like on a daily basis?
My sleep varies. Most of the time, I would say I sleep well. I've always been a good sleeper. But I've noticed after my 40s, I started to see a reduction on my sleep patterns, because I used to sleep a lot. Like, my family used to joke at me, telling me that I was sleeping like a teenager, that I was sleeping too much. But I guess that was part of the depression I was having too. Now, even if I want, I cannot sleep that much. But on a regular day, I could sleep 6-7 hours at most. And on the weekends, same thing. 6-7 hours. I go late to bed.
Well, he also asks you, what are your stress levels like on a daily basis?
Um, well, because of the situation with my body odor, there's a lot of stress, but I've been able to get better with all the conversations I have had with Chrisanne, and she has given me, things to help me to cope with stress. Um, the way I was before, it was horrible. I was at the point of having even suicidal thoughts. Now I'm way much better.
Hmm. Okay. Uh, is it because the thing is, I wanted to ask you, because there's so many other things I wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you this early when you were
Mm-hmm,
talking about your college years, and you were talking about your last relationship that you've been in, and you're saying that uh, there was a point where you were like in denial or something. So you were telling me some experiences that you had in your college years, but then
mm-hmm.
you said like later on in life you were still like in denial that you had an odor problem. So like within your college years, you didn't really think that it was something deeper, or you thought it was like all in your head or something like that, or
When
how
I
did
was
you?
in, when I was in college, I realized I was having a problem, and at the beginning, I thought it will go away if I was more careful with my hygiene. And then when I realized that wasn't working, I knew it was something more permanent, but I didn't know what was happening to me, and I didn't know how to cope with it. So the only way I could cope with it was denying it, not accepting it. So
Mm,
I could go for months without thinking about it, don't
really?
thinking that I had bad breath. And then suddenly somebody will make a comment or a reaction or something and reminded me, shit, I'm a person that has permanent bad breath. and my life was miserable. I was all the time between that cycle, all the time. And when I started working, once I came here into the United States, I started working. I was not a student anymore. It became worse. I guess because I was stressed out because of work, and thinking about it and having indirects from people. I remember many years ago at my work, there was a lady that she didn't like me at all. She was pretty much with another lady bullying me. They wanted me to make me go away, to resign my job. They used to follow me to the bathroom all the time when I was going to the bathroom. I mean, they were doing really, really awful things to me, leaving me like job postings from the company on other departments on my desk, doing a lot of sort of things. So, but I was like, no, I'm not gonna leave. I want to stay here. I want to stay here. So I took a lot of bullying back in that time. And one day, I had one of those throat infections. I guess because I was stressed out, I got sick too. And one of them, she said, "Oh my God, you should buy a new toothbrush." And she said it in front of everybody.
Mm.
And I was like, "Oh my God, this is one of the things that I am afraid of, that somebody will tell me on my face in front of everybody that I stink." Oh, I was like, so inside me, I was like having the worst fears. And the only thing I could come up with was to say, why? And then I guess she wasn't expecting me from me to come back to that question. And she said, well, she didn't know what to tell me when I said why. And she was like, but, you know, because you're having an infection, and when you brush your tooth and you don't change it, you're reinfecting yourself. And then she left. And I was like, what the fuck? She cares if I'm reinfecting myself or not. I mean, she doesn't care about me, but probably I was smelling. I knew I was smelling really bad, because when I have these infections, the smell gets worse. I see the reactions from people is worse.
Mm.
So I knew I was smelling bad, but I wasn't that much sick to call sick at work and not go. So that was awful for me.
It's so weird, or sort of funny. I don't know if it's funny or weird, but it's like this
Yeah,
is the
I
second
know.
time I've heard someone say that women try to follow you in the bathroom. Like the last interview I had with Patricia, she was saying something like that too. When she went to the gym, there would be like women following behind her and trying to harass her and stuff like that. I'm like, or was it school? I think it was school in the gym. Regardless, I never heard of that. Like people following you to the bathroom. Like, is that just a woman thing? I never, because
I
I
have
never.
no. Yeah, I know. You know what I did one day, how I stopped the whole thing? I mean, I'm sorry if this is TMI, but since I suffer from constipation, I drink a lot of water during the day. And of course, when you drink a lot of water, you have to keep going to the bathroom. And I was constipated for several days. And finally, I felt like I could have a bowel movement. So I was at work, I went to the bathroom, and one of them came behind me as usual. And I got into the stool and I said, I know she's coming. And usually, when you're in a public place, you want the smell to be limited as much as possible. So I had my system. I flushed the toilet immediately. So whatever comes out, it goes out immediately and doesn't smell. But I knew she was coming. So I didn't flush the toilet. I let her smell it. And she came around, and because the stools, they have this little space between the door and the walls, and you can see a little bit from that little space when you're inside. So I could see her coming, looking for me, looking underneath the stools to see where I was. And then she kind of stopped and immediately turned around and left. After that, believe me, I didn't have any of them following me to the bathroom ever,
That's
because this
weird.
was a daily routine. Every time I was going to the bathroom, they were taking turns and they were going after me. and looking at the bathroom where I was.
That's strange. Now
Yes, I know.
there's a lot of questions I haven't gotten to, but so I want to just address them. Yeah, from Quantigy, she says, "I'm late to the video. Does your smell change, or is it a consistent type of odor?"
I don't know what kind of odor I have. Sometimes I have the suspicion that it's like like feces. Sometimes I think maybe it's like sewer, like my sisters used to tell me about it. I really don't know what type of odor it is. I think it's like feces. That's my suspicion.
I got another comment from beautiful brown chick, and she asked, "Did she finish college?"
Yes, I did. What happened is I did 2 semesters of languages and then I moved to art because I really wanted to. That was my passion. Art was my passion. So I decided against all the wills of my family to move to study art. And I did that and I finished, I graduated and everything. But during my college years, what I did is I kind of socialized halfway. I was like, yeah, socializing with people. And when they were talking about authors or something, I was finding excuse to leave the conversation so I wouldn't have any indirects or it wouldn't evolve into any indirects to me.
I do want to. Well, let me finish reading the questions. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if this is a comment. I guess I'll just read it. Mogul11 says, I have bad breath lately. Besides drinking kefir, I started adding lots of veggies every day and milk and magnesia laxative every few days. Huge improvement in bowel movements. My breath is getting less acidic. I guess it's just a comment. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Another. This is a question from TMAU, and she asks, "Do you have any family members with the same issue?"
No, the only thing I know is I have an aunt. My mother said that on her youth years, she used to have a lot of armpit odor that she couldn't control with anything. And she battled with that during her youth. But suddenly, as she aged, it stopped suddenly.
Hmm.
That's the only thing that I know in my family or a family member with body odors. I've never felt anybody in my family. The only one that I have told what's happening to me recently was my sister, and she said, "I don't recall when we used to tell you that you used to have a sore mouth." I was like,
Hmm.
"Yeah, you used to joke about it when I was a kid," and she was like, "I don't know, it was a long time ago. I don't remember, and I cannot smell anything." And I explained her the whole situation, and she said, maybe it's stressed and because when you're around us you're not stressed, maybe you don't smell. Let me go to your work at lunchtime and see if I can smell. And she tried and she said she couldn't smell anything. And I was like, I just came back from a training. I was training only 2 people on a small desk, and the one that was in front of me during the whole time of training, she was covering her nose,
Mhm.
and people avoid to sit in front of me or on the path of my breath when I'm in meetings. And recently, they took me out of all meetings. I'm not going to any meetings anymore.
Because of the coronavirus?
No, that was way before the coronavirus.
Mhm. I wanted to ask you that too, because this is something that's sort of eventful. Like with the coronavirus, I know you said you have like an open desk or open space type of
Mhm.
situation as opposed to cubicles. Do you Are you working from home at the moment, or do you still have to show up to work?
Oh no, thanks God. Oh, they sent us to work from home, which has been a huge relief for me working from home. I can
Yeah.
do the same things I do. And if I am on meetings over the phone, I don't have to be concerned, oh my God, who I'm stinking to. It's really a relief for me.
Yeah. And I think I never actually asked you what your profession was, but I'm thinking to myself, if when the possibly the coronavirus fizzles out, do you possibly think about getting another job and just trying to make sure it's a remote job?
I was thinking to even move out of New Jersey to
Mm,
Florida or another place and looking for another job. I've been thinking on that, but my biggest fear is that what if I get to another job and they are not gonna put up with me the way these people put up with me, at least.
Mhm.
Because I've been so many years on this place, and good or bad, I mean, I still have my job. I hear so many people with body odor problems that they struggle to find a job, and actually I'm blessed to have a job. I've never had any problems, but it's because I've been on this company all the time. I haven't been switching jobs in many years.
Mm. Oh, I definitely agree. There's a possibility that there's some type of definitely there's some type of discrimination that happens. But I think once they hire you, it's sort of hard for them to just completely remove you, especially if you're doing your job, you know? But I don't know.
Exactly.
Maybe there's like some type of stories out there where there's some people in the back conspired against them to fire them in some fashion. I don't know. Um,
Mhm.
but let me try to read some other comments that people made. Should feel you buy thumbs up, guys. Um, how? Yeah, I got a question from Xerxu, and he asked, "How often is she constipated?"
Um, I could say every week I'm constipated. If I'm really bad, I only have a bowel movement during the whole week. If I'm good, I have a bowel movement every other day. Even if it's small, it's something for me. But sometimes when I've been really bad, it's like 3 weeks and nothing.
Wow.
That's how bad I can get.
I mean, I know you say you try psyllium fiber, but I mean, I guess our digestive systems are different. But I know
Yeah.
when I take like at least half a tablespoon, it's and at the same time you eat very little, you know. So that's also probably a contributing factor. With SIBO, I don't think you're supposed to eat too much fiber, consume too much fiber, right? Because that
Exactly.
possibly will
And,
worsen your.
and one of the side effects of the SIBO diet is precisely constipation. But since I've been so bad, my doctor gave me 3 different types of fiber to start taking because she said it's too bad. You cannot continue like this. Although she gave me before some natural laxatives that were working very well, but since I've been taking them so long now, they are not working. So she said, I'm gonna add these fibers. You need to take them, and actually they've been working pretty well. These fibers. She said, just start with half a spoon as you tolerate them, and then keep going up. And I've been taking the full spoon of each one of them, the 3 of them at once in the morning in my shakes, and it's been working really well.
Okay. Um, other comments I got. Well, this is a comment, not really a question. From the Gutware, he says, I think it's coming from the lungs. Her lung microbiome is confiscated by pathogens. Lungs, FMO3 no longer have the good bacteria to help organ function. Solution is keep fighting towards gut health. Eventually, the bacteria will make the voyage to lungs from the gut through the vagus nerve. In the meanwhile, get your gut test. Look at those 3 bacteria levels: Lactobacillus, Acidophilus, Bifidobacterium longum, and S. thermophilus.
Um,
Um,
can you send me those names via email? I can check those later.
Can you? Oh, I know you're
Mhm.
doing this on your phone. I could
Mhm.
probably just copy this stuff that he just put. Let me see. Yeah,
Um,
you see
okay.
this?
Let
Lacido,
me see if I can. Okay, let me see if I can copy them.
or we could put in the chat. I mean,
No,
also
I'm
this is
gonna
being
take a
recorded,
screenshot.
so
Let me see if I can take a screenshot from the phone. Did it do it? Uh, looks like it did
maybe
it.
I should put this in your email.
Okay, I think my phone. Oh yeah, I could take a screenshot. Yeah, I think my phone did it.
Okay. Um. Let me see if there's any other comments. Helping never turn decent people.
And I also went to a specialist last year in Barcelona. I found it actually through the comments on the on the TMAU group. It's a specialist only for bad breath problems. I went there, but unfortunately, when I traveled, he wasn't there. He was doing, some seminars or something. But anyway, they took the test on me, and on the test, he said that there was not such a high amount of this type of volatile compounds that make you smell really bad, but there was some of it, like something called putrefactina. I mean, they had really horrible names. Like, so he said it could be intermittent, but since he couldn't smell me because he wasn't there, we did like some online consultations with my sister because you have to have somebody with you that can smell you. And he said, I don't think you have bad breath. So I was like, oh, great. And I had to pay. You have no idea all the money that I have spent on this thing, all the debt that I am, because these tests are
Yeah.
expensive. That test was like 700 euros. I'm still paying for it on my card. And the one from Genova Diagnostics was 300 and something.
Damn.
And without counting the SIBO test. So can you imagine for a person that doesn't have a job, how difficult it's to do that?
Yeah.
Even for me, it's difficult because I'm putting everything on my credit card. I'm high in credit card debt doing all these tests.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I'm sorry.
And the functional doctor, every consultation is $400.
You don't have medical insurance?
My insurance is crap. My insurance doesn't cover anything. And those type of doctors, they are outside of the network anyway. So what I do is I only go after I have all the tests necessary so she can read them and give me advice. Other than that, I don't go because every consultation $400, I cannot afford that all the time.
Right. I forgot to ask you this, and I should have asked you this a long time ago. Do you believe you have TMAU, and have you ever tested yourself?
I did the TMAU test 2 times. I did it with Mivo, the $200 test they have. And then I did it directly with Philadelphia with the, what was the
Children's Hospital? Is it
no,
children?
the institute, there's an institute they have with Dr. Preti, the one that passed away
Oh
recently.
yeah.
The Smell and whatever institute.
Oh my god, I can't believe I can't remember that name.
Yeah, it's
Doesn't
something
matter. I understand where.
called Nose something institute, whatever. I took the test with them. That was $700.
Yeah.
So I took that test and that came back negative. So I think it could be something along the lines, but maybe it's not that enzyme or whatever they test with TMAU. It's something else.
Salim BP1.
Or Selenium BP1 too. That's another thing. But it's not TMAU. So that's why I stopped the TMAU diet, because I was like, okay, I tested 2 times, and why I'm gonna go through that restrictive diet if I don't have TMAU?
Well, I do have to say we're winding down here. So if there's any last comments or questions you want to ask Delima, here's the time to ask them. And at the same time, I do have to read a number of these comments and questions that people in the chat are asking. I don't know if this. Let me read it out. How be neurogenic disorder? People always seem to go to diet change, but how can diet change correct a physical? I don't know. Maybe you should rewrite that. I don't really understand. Another thing from Beautiful Brown Chick. What are the fibers she is taking?
She gave me the Silum, like organic one. Oh, I got the, let me get the bottles. Hold on a second.
Right. And while she's getting the fibers, I appreciate everybody for dropping in. And
one it's called glucomannan. It's come from konjac root. And the other one it's called acacia fiber.
Glucomannan.
Yeah. It's GLUCOMANNAN. Nancy, Nancy, A, Nancy.
Interesting.
It says
Glucopure
from
konjac from
konjac
konjac
root.
root.
Yes. So I only take a teaspoon of that, and a teaspoon of the other one, and a teaspoon of the organic psyllium fiber. I take the three of them in my smoothie in the morning, and it's been working well for me. But I know after a while this is gonna stop working
So
because
it's this right
a lot
here?
of the same thing. Yeah, that's the one.
Glucomannan. All right, let's go back here. Interesting. So what are the other questions? Damn, special effects LKL6. I don't know what that is. Another question from Zirksu. Does she have tiny white bumps on her arm and back?
Tiny white bumps where?
Tiny white bumps on her arms and back.
No.
Hmm.
No, I don't have any of that.
I guess those are all the other questions. So I do want to ask you, is it okay that I share your email, put your email out there, so if anybody wants to contact you and connect with you, they can?
Sure, sure.
Great.
I would like to talk with other people. Sure.
And while I'm getting this stuff, I do want to ask you, let's say there's someone who actually identifies with a lot of what you're saying, and they relate to everything you're saying. Is there any words of wisdom you would like to give to that person or final thoughts?
The only thing I can tell you is I've been on the bottom of this, feeling like really miserable, and we just have to stay together and be hopeful. I know it's easy. It's easier to say than doing it. Just listen to others, so you don't feel that much lonely. And if you can have somebody that can listen to you, even if it's only one person, it will help you a lot. That's and you're not alone. You're not crazy. I know they want to make us feel crazy all the time, but you are not.
All right. But other than that, I don't think there's anything else I really need to ask you. I really appreciate you, Delima, for coming on and telling your story. Because I swear, like, some of these things that you're saying sound so familiar to Carol Williams a little bit, like with the like throat infections and the acid reflux. It sounds fairly similar, and I don't know what it is. Obviously, I wouldn't know. But I do, because there's not too many people that I've interviewed that have the bad breath, so it's very interesting to hear their side of the story. Um, but other than that, I do appreciate a lot of people who came on chat and asked questions and stuff like that. That's awesome, and I appreciate you from coming in. And this is Friday Night TMAU PATM Body Odor interview number 31, and we are out of here. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.